Hello, and welcome to Building Los Angeles. It's hard to think about Los Angeles without thinking about Hollywood and how the two are interconnected, whether you'd like to admit it or not. Now, a lot of history gets paved over, rebuilt, turned into something else. And some of the original films that made Hollywood what it is today, the locations where those films were made are long, long forgotten. That's not the case today, because behind me is one of the original studios in Hollywood, the first indoor studio built in 1912. The main building is still standing, Mack Sennett's Keystone Studios.
In 1912, at 32 years old, Mack Sennett moved to what was then known as Edendale, now Silver Lake, Los Angeles, from New York City, and built Keystone Studios. It's easy to pass by without noticing it, but it's significant in that it was the first fully enclosed film stage compared to Thomas Edison's Black Maria Studios in West Orange, New Jersey, that had a spinning stage that could chase the sun's direction. It's also where icons such as Gloria Swanson, Harold Lloyd, and one Charles Chaplin got their start in Hollywood.
Also in 1912, just down the way from Keystone Studios from Mack Sennett, was the original KCET Studios.
Standing as the longest-running production studio in Hollywood, KCET Studios really took off in 1920 when purchased by actor Charles Ray, who used his fortune to buy the studio. His weekly paycheck from Paramount was $11,000. I love the studio's iconic brick buildings, and in contrast, its fully glass-walled and roofed Studio A.
With everybody making films in the early Hollywood days, they started to need places where they could screen them. And actually not too far away from Mack Sennett and the KCET original studios, you've got the Vista Theater, which is being currently restored by Quentin Tarantino. So right behind me in the sleepy neighborhood of Los Feliz is an old studio that's very quiet. It's called the Prospect Studios now, but in 1913 it was known as Vitagraph Studios.
Opened in 1913, Vitagraph Studio was the West Coast headquarters of ABC for over 50 years. In 1927, it became the Warner Brothers' East Hollywood Annex, and the interior club scenes of The Jazz Singer, the world's first talking picture, were filmed in its Stage 5. What completely stuns me is how unwelcoming the original entrance has become over the years.
Now look, I'm not the guy that's going to tell you that everything in LA needs to be preserved. I'm just the guy that's going to talk about its history and why it's significant. And the last studio today on my list is D.W. Griffith's film studio.
Across the street from the Vista, currently a Vons, is a site of D.W. Griffith's Reliance Fine Arts Studios. Griffith made Birth of a Nation and Intolerance here. Pieces of the Intolerance set would be on display at Hollywood and Highland until 2019, where the new owners of the center took it down in solidarity against Griffith's connection to Birth of a Nation and its glorification of racism. Well, that does it for me on this episode. But remember, it's important to remember the past. Remember the good and bad, so we can learn from it and move forward. Until next time, take care.